He solves the puzzle, walks through the door, and ends up right back where he started. Again, and again, and again. Until the only thing left to try is not to try. The Hall of Egress isn't about escaping a dungeon, it's about letting go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. But before we get to everything the Hall of Egress teaches us, let's quickly recap the episode so we all know what we're working with. It starts simple. Finn and Jake are following a map, one given to them by Flambeau's brother, to a weird cave somewhere in the mountains. No stakes, no mission, just curiosity and a little expectation of loot. They find the place. Finn is super eager to charge in. Jake is joking about sidewalk chalk. But when Finn enters and his foot hits a pressure plate, the door closes on its own, separating the duo. It's a door even too big for Jake to break through, meaning he can't follow, and that's how it's meant to be. From here on out, Finn is on his own. But before charging in on solo, he does something telling that's pretty important for this episode.
Better leave a little trail in case I get lost. Breadcrumb style. Plus for if Jake gets in and tries to track me down.
He tries to leave a trail for Jake to find him. Little does he know, it's exactly that trail that he's trying to leave behind that will stop him from leaving the cave. He walks deeper in, first choosing the middle of 3 doors and falling down a shaft. What he's met with aren't monsters or puzzles, just a small, silent room made of stone. At the center sits an upside-down snowman. It's strange enough to feel important, so remember it, we'll be coming back to this later. Besides the snowman, there's nothing to interact with, just a single door named Egress, a word Finn recognizes.
What's egress mean?
Exit.
Perfect. It should be the way he gets to meet up with Jake again, right? So he tries walking through, with no success. Tries smashing the upside-down snowman against it to open it, but that also doesn't work. But when he leans against it and closes his eyes, he falls through the hatch. He lifts his head instinctively, his eyes widen, and suddenly he's back in the hall. That's when the episode starts breaking the rules. Finn's hero brain is no use here. There's no fight, no feedback, just a loop. What looks like a puzzle is something else entirely. And the more Finn tries to control it, the more he realizes control doesn't work. He tries again, blind. This time he finds a string on the ground. He follows it carefully, eyes still closed, until he falls. Hard. Dangling over a pit, he lowers his foot and feels the sharp tips of a spike trap beneath him. He opens his eyes. Back in the hall. The exits are real. The danger is real. But every time he tries to check, to confirm, to see, he resets. And so does the maze. It changes every time. This isn't about logic. It isn't a puzzle. It's a test. And the only way forward is blind. Eventually, Finn stops trying to figure it out. No more ropes, no more strings, no more tests. He just runs, brute force. The sounds shift. Air changes. He hears Jake's voice in the distance, calling his name. Finn keeps running. And then, with a jolt, he surfaces. He bursts out of the ground right at Jake's feet. For a moment, it feels like he's free, ready to tell Jake all about the cave. Then he opens his eyes, and he's back in the hall. Same snowman, same silence, same door. So he tries again. Same run, same pop-up, but this time he keeps his eyes shut. Even when Jake starts asking questions, Finn stays focused. Eyes closed, he tries to explain everything that's been happening. But Jake doesn't understand, doesn't remember. To him, none of it ever happened. Confused and shaken, Finn follows Jake to look for the cave's entrance, the place where it all began. But it's gone. The mountainside is smooth, untouched. Jake says there's nothing there. And that moment breaks him. Finn opens his eyes. And he's back in the hall. Again. Up to this point, he's done everything right. He's followed the rules, trusted the path, even reached daylight. But one moment of doubt, one need to see for himself, and it's all gone. So he decides this is his life now. He's just going to live with his eyes closed, waiting and waiting. But when Jake and BMO just keep messing around with Finn, forcing him to open his eyes, Finn decides enough is enough. He says goodbye to Jake, BMO, and even his clothes.
No more threads to follow. No more egress.
No more threads to follow, no trail left behind to find his way back to normal life. Finn goes on to seemingly live like a bewildered nomad for a while, until he eventually reaches a cave in the desert, very similar to the one he encountered before. Everything while still blindfolded. This time he misses the pressure plate that previously caused the door to the cave to shut. The shaft he enters also has a ramp down instead of a drop. And when he realizes he's in the Hall of Egress again, he freaks out at first, memories flashing back to how he got trapped in the first place. Until he imagines or hears the faint voice of BMO.
Something's different.
That's when Finn, after weeks or months of having them on, takes off his blindfolds and opens his eyes again. Instead of being transported back to the Hall of Egress, he can now see everything. So he runs out, back to Jake, finally exiting the cave after what seems like an eternity. This all leaves hundreds of questions, but most importantly, how, what, where, when, and why does the Hall of Egress teach? Well, let's dive into that. The first lesson is about growth and change. At first glance, the Hall of Egress looks like a magical trap, a psychological prank, but it's actually one of the most honest metaphors Adventure Time has ever offered. Finn isn't stuck in this eyes-closed time loop because he's weird or foolish. He's stuck because he's doing what any of us would do, trying to solve a problem, trying to think his way out, punch his way out, plan his way out. But that's also the test. You can't force growth. You can't logic your way into clarity. You can't fight your way into healing. The Hall isn't asking Finn to win. It's asking him to let go. The key to escaping isn't strength. It's trust. Trust in what you can't see. Trust that there is a way forward, even if you don't understand it. Trust that temporary surrender doesn't mean defeat. And this is where the metaphor deepens. Because the more Finn tries to leave a trail, the more lost he becomes. The more he clings to what used to work, like relying on Jake, the more he resets. Even when he breaks free, it's one moment of doubt, one glance that pulls him back in. It's a perfect mirror of real change. The moment you start to doubt all the progress you've made, start doubting if you've actually changed anything at all, you feel like you're back at the beginning again. So to us, it's most similar to an episode of Victorious called The Bird Scene. In that episode, Tori, the star of the show for those unaware, has to go through a test before she can take part in any school play. A test that she does exceptionally well in, but still fails twice. That's because at the end of each test, she starts asking how she did. For a student to pass the bird scene, they must not question their performance and be confident that they did well no matter what other people say. That's exactly what the Hall of Egress is also trying to force Finn to realize. He has to stop doubting himself, stop relying on others, go through his own independent journey, and fully believe that whatever he does is leading him in the right direction to escape from this time loop. And to do so, he had to wait for something to change. And that something was Finn himself. Where Tori had to stop looking for external validation to pass the test, Finn had to stop looking for the exit to actually find it. It's why he says,
"No more egress,"
when he takes his clothes off. Similar to Tori, Finn also isn't getting any help. No hint, no answer. Just patience and presence. For anyone who's tried to purposely grow, emotionally, spiritually, even creatively, this feels terrifyingly real. You don't know what's working. You don't know if you're on the right track. You don't even know if you'll ever get out, and you don't know where you're going because your eyes are closed. But sometimes you just have to trust the process and keep moving forward. Because in this case, progress isn't something tangible. The final shift came for Finn not when the Hall of Egress changed, but when Finn did. He stops trying to be found. He stops trying to explain himself. He lets go of Jake, of BMO, his home, his clothes. Everything he clung to in hopes of being pulled back to safety, gone. And with that, the Hall lets him back in. The real way in. Not through traps or tricks or brute force, but through surrender. That's why he missed the pressure plate. That's why the shaft became a ramp. Because Finn no longer needs the fall to learn. That's also why the snowman doesn't do anything. Or at least it doesn't seem like it does anything. It's placed dead center in the room, upside down, as if it's supposed to be a clue. Finn tries smashing it, tries to use it like a key. Nothing happens, because it's seemingly not a puzzle. It's a distraction. A false affordance, something that looks like it matters but doesn't. It tempts his instincts to tinker, to outsmart, to manipulate the room like a game. But this place doesn't want cleverness. Even the name Hall of Egress is a trick. We hear Princess Bubblegum define it in a flashback.
What's egress mean?
Exit.
And just like that, Finn thinks he knows what to do. Just walk out, open the door, escape, exit. But that's the Barnum trick. A real con once used in circuses. A sign that reads, "This way to the egress," would lure visitors straight out of the show. They followed it expecting a new attraction and walked right into the street. They could pay again for re-entry or choose to see the world as the grand spectacle of its circus. The hall is the same. It promises escape, then loops you in until you're ready to understand what exit actually means. It's not a location, it's a state of mind. That state of mind is also where you could draw parallels with Wu Wei, the Taoist idea of effortless action, of doing by not doing, of flowing with the current rather than against it. Finn spends most of the episode resisting, measuring, testing, brute forcing. But the moment he stops trying to control every step, he begins to move, exactly like he and Bimo said. And when he returns to the hall for the final time, finally able to open his eyes, he doesn't reset. He finds himself looking through some sort of transparent ground. The world outside is right there, close enough to touch, yet sealed behind a thin, transparent barrier. That's the final layer. The hall has no more tricks left, no more loops, no more resets. There's just one last obstacle, and it isn't physical, it's perspective. Because the last thing Finn has to break through is himself. That's the cruel beauty of growth. The moment it's available to you is the moment you no longer need to chase it. He didn't get out by solving the maze. He got out by becoming the kind of person who no longer had to. We've all faced versions of this, moments where the way forward felt just out of reach, like you could see it, name it, almost touch it, but not live it. Sometimes it's a job, a breakup, a relationship, a creative block. The harder you try to fix it, the more it pushes you back. Until one day, without warning, you stop trying and move. That's not giving up. That's surrender, and it's what makes all the difference. You can see this shift in Finn's body. By the time he reaches the exit, he's shed everything. His backpack, his hat, his belongings, his friends, even the trail he tried to leave behind. Everything that wants to find him floated down a stream, forgotten. Because change demands that you leave something behind. Not just physically, but emotionally. The roles you used to play, the armor you used to wear, the explanations you used to rely on. You don't grow by dragging all of that with you. You grow by letting go of what no longer fits. And that's what makes the final moment so perfect. Jake asks what happened, what the cave was, and Finn just says,
No comment!
He doesn't need to explain, because real transformation doesn't need a thesis. It just needs time. He also doesn't need validation from others to know he's changed. He just needs to know and believe in himself. Sometimes you go through something so personal, so quiet, so disorienting that even the people closest to you couldn't understand it or don't need to understand it. But that doesn't make it less real. Some journeys don't end with a speech, they just end with a smile. The Hall of Egress doesn't teach us how to escape a trap. It teaches that sometimes the only way forward is to stop demanding answers, stop looking for shortcuts, and start trusting the process, even if it means walking blind for a while. We don't get to choose when we're ready, but we can choose to stay open, to keep walking and accept what comes our way, to let go. Like Finn, maybe we all have a Hall of Egress waiting for us, a moment where the only way out is in. There's also one part we didn't touch on just yet, and it's the line,
Hurry. worry, Finn. At the seashell's center lies the cornucopia's smallest door.
Here's what we'd like to interpret it as, in line with a journey of growth, identity, and self-development. A seashell, especially a spiral one, is a natural maze. It represents introspection, the journey inside. You can't brute force your way through a seashell. You have to go in slowly, delicately, and trust the spiral will take you somewhere. But here's the twist. The door to get to it is the smallest one. Not the grand gate Finn was expecting. Not the snowman. Not the obvious door marked egress. It's a whisper. A crack. A moment of stillness. A choice so subtle, you can only take it once you've stopped looking for it. That's how we'd define it. The cornucopia, the reward, the freedom, the insight, it exists, but it's not behind the biggest, brightest door. It's hidden behind the simplest one, the one that demands you shrink your ego, your urgency, your plans. In metaphorical terms, it's the door you find only after you've let go of the map. In real life, that might mean giving up on controlling a relationship, or no longer forcing your identity to make sense right now, or accepting that you don't know what's next and moving forward anyway. You don't grow by kicking open gates. You grow by finding and walking through the smallest door. That would be our take on it, but we have to give credit where credit is due. The original AT Goat Uncivilized Elk made a video on it, analyzing that the line might mean that Finn has to uncover something in his own vault to stop Wu from great destruction. That's exactly what happens in the series finale too. If you're looking for much more depth surrounding the Hall of Egress, go watch his video on it as well. It's definitely worth it. Elk, if you're watching this, take care, man. If you'd like another deep story about growth, identity, and what it means to be a loyal person above everything, check out our video on Peppermint Butler. He's not the person you think he is. And hey, give us a subscribe, a like, and a comment about what you think about my cat picture. See you in the next video.